Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
As the Virtual Grip Network gears up for another action-packed week of racing, let's take a quick look back at last week's race winners. James Lowe with the Bootleg Racing League's Outlaw SK Modified Series. John Wilson with the Bootleg Racing League's Late Model Series. And Charlie Widner with the Maximum Velocity Racing League's ARCA Series. Now we'll take a quick break before turning things over to John Hine, who's standing by with this week's special guests, Kenny and Luke Allen from Red Light Racing.
And welcome back to VGN Weekly. I am your host, John Hine. And this week we have a really cool show. We have the father-son duo of Kenny and Luke Allen. Kenny's stats, they're both Red Light Racing drivers, and Kenny's stats look like this. He's got 45 starts. The first one was all the way back in February of 2024, and that came at New Smyrna. Since then, he's gone on to do 12 top fives and 22 top tens. Luke has been coming along. He's got 29 starts since July of 2024. He's got 6 top fives, 12 top tens. Guys, I really am excited. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. We're glad to be here.
Well, the last week you guys were out. Luke, you did pretty good there. You got a 13th and a pretty big field there. And Kenny, you finished third, so you got a podium. What track were you guys at to let everybody know and assess your race?
Our season finale at Martinsville. Yeah.
Wow, that's always a interesting track to go race to.
Yeah, I like Martinsville. But, yeah, the setup was definitely challenging that night, but yeah, I like Martinsville. I don't know what Luke's feelings towards.
It's Martinsville.
That's how I feel about it. it's well, okay. It's on the schedule, so I guess I gotta go. That's my feeling
Right.
of Martinsville.
Yeah.
Yep, he's nodding. So, you guys have been doing really well in the standings this past year. Luke, you finished 8th, so nice top 10 there. So nice job. Kenny, you got a podium. So sounds like there's some consistency for you, Ken. They're top threes, top fives.
Yeah.
Um, First, let me ask Luke. Luke, assess your season. How do you think it went?
Good. Very, very good.
Good. What do you think your highlight was? What was your favorite part of the season?
The first race at New Smyrna was
New
probably the
Smyrna.
best.
Why was it?
I led my first laps and won
Oh,
my first races in the season when I bought the track only an hour ago. Yeah, if they
right
keep
now,
me,
everybody in red light racing's my gosh, this little whippersnapper here is putting on us here, and he just bought the track. That's really cool. So so you just took right to it then, right?
hmm
Yeah.
What
I think
about it? Did you like it because it was banking, or do you like it because it's fast? Because that's a really fast track.
and it just kind of just drove and I was very good at it.
Well, very cool. Well, Ken, how about your season, man? Finishing third. That's agonizing close. I think I'd almost rather finish fourth or fifth than second or third, because then you're left with that woulda, coulda, shoulda. At
I
least
was
usually for me.
yeah, I was happy with it. Yeah, I don't think I'm at a point where I'm ready to challenge Eric and our front runners yet, but I keep putting in the work to close
Yeah,
that gap.
Eric seems pretty stout. I think he had like 9 wins on the season here. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys need to figure out how to attach anchors to his bumper and get him going. Bring him back or something.
Yeah, hopefully next season he's going to be a little more busier, so he won't have time to prep as much.
Well, for your season, what was the highlight for you?
I think I think for he says Noob Sir, but I believe Watkins Glen was probably his highlight race, and for me, I would say Concord. I think Concord was the first race that I moved right in. I was able to keep up
Concord?
in the front. Yeah,
What
I
is
love
wrong? What
Concord.
is wrong with you? Oh
I
my
love
gosh!
Concord. I think that is just the best track.
Oh,
I
that's
could run
probably
the
one of
weekly
2 or 3
series there.
that I'd like to see them fill it full of water and use it as a bass pond.
Right.
Um, wow. So what is it that you like about that track? Because honestly,
I,
I have a lot of friends of mine. You would be in the minority of people that like that track.
I enjoy the 3 different turns. I think it keeps you alert. You're constantly thinking there. You can't just get into one simple rhythm and hit the mark, hit the mark. You got to be prepared each turn. And
Yeah.
turn 3, it's one of those turns you feel like you got to charge it, but if you got to slow down, take that thing easy, and I just like it.
Yeah, and for those that have never raced on it, not only does it have 3 different turns, I mean, it is a bull ring roval is what that
Yeah,
track is. And there are elevation changes in that track.
yeah,
You kind of go
yeah,
uphill one way, you're downhill the other, and it's even more extreme than what you feel at North Wilkesboro. Because
yeah,
Wilkesboro, you go up the backstretch. And I mean, it's almost like a little mini roller coaster driving around that track, to be honest
yeah.
with you. Um, that's that's cool though. At least, hey, it's got some fans. That proves there's
I'll,
something for everybody out there.
I'll be the one.
Um,
I'll be the one fan for it.
well, I think there's a few of you guys. You
Right,
probably need to start a self help group, in my opinion. But
right. I'm always having to
um,
fight to get it on the schedule each year.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I guess we should probably quit bashing before I get a call from somebody that like owned that track at one point in time. Hey, don't
right.
knock our track. Um,
Yeah,
but you know, you guys, one of the cool things is obviously your father's son,
yeah.
and so you get to be on the track with each other there during the season. So, do you guys have like rigs like pulled up side by side? So, tell me how you guys do this race day.
Well, I'm in one room and he's in his bedroom.
Hmm.
And essentially everything he has is what I started with. So
Okay.
every time I upgrade, he gets my old stuff. So
Yep.
because when I got an iRace, I wasn't really sure. I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I bought a next level gosh, I can't think the Victor rig,
Mhm.
and I was like, I like iRacing. I'm gonna get something better, and by that time he had been. Well, he had started out playing with NASCAR 2003,
Yeah.
and
Were you even alive then?
well, I still have it on the PC.
Well, I know, but I'm asking him. Was he even
Oh,
when
he
that
has,
game came out?
yeah.
Was he even
He,
alive yet?
no way, no, no.
That was
And,
10 years later.
but he wanted to race cars, and I thought, well, here you go, try this, buddy. Propped up pedals on boxes and tried to get a seat as low as I could. But he
Well,
managed.
you guys being in different rooms then, so then I got to assume then you're both in the same Discord where you can still talk to each other and all
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff when you race. So,
yeah. And we have my wife to run back and forth to pass secret messages.
nice. Oh, you guys need to set cameras up in your. Now all of a sudden, I see this poor woman running back and forth room to room.
Yeah,
Your dad said this. Well, Luke
right.
said this. Back
I'll
and
have to
forth.
mute. I'll be like, go tell Luke I need him in this lane. Go tell him I'm pitting in 5 laps. That's how our strategy works.
That is awesome. So she's the de facto crew chief.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
what she is.
Yeah, crew chief spotter. That's her job.
That is that is probably even. I've been doing this now almost a year. That is probably the single coolest story I've heard that pertains actually to iRacing. There, um, man. So, well, cool. The whole family gets involved. Then I
Right,
guess that's a
right.
cool thing. So,
I don't think she wants to be involved, but she is.
well, but you say you need him in this lane. So obviously, Ken, you're paying attention to him on the track
Uh,
and where he's going a little bit, or do you guys? I mean, I hate to use the word rivalry, but I mean, you guys keep tabs
I
on each other, right?
I don't know if he keeps tabs with me, but I'm always watching where he's at. We joke that what are you going to do if Luke wins before you, and I would be tickled to death if he gets the win before I do. I mean, I always want to see him do good.
Luke, if
Uh,
you beat him to victory lane, how much smack are you going to talk?
Um,
It should be a
a
lot.
lot
The answer
until
should be a lot.
he goes out. A lot until he goes out and wins a bunch of races next season.
Yeah. See, oh, got a phone call here. Did not silence my phone.
okay.
Apologize for that. So unprofessional. Um, but yeah, if that happens, you know what you need to do is like, hey, Dad, pass the salt and pepper shaker. Loser.
Right.
That's what I would do, but I'm not always the nicest guy, so maybe you guys are a little more civil. But um, that's so cool, though. Luke, what do you feel like? How do you feel about racing your dad? You're having your dad out there. I mean, is it like motivation? Is he the guy you want to beat, or you just want to win?
I want to win and beat him.
So both.
Yeah.
Have you guys? How many times have you guys like run head to head for like 10 laps to go? Luke, you could be sitting in fourth, your dad in third, or vice versa. Have you guys experienced that where you guys are fighting for a position at the end of a race?
I will say Concord, our race at Concord last year.
That
Uh,
didn't go.
it did go. I blame for him, but really it was my fault that caused the accident. But I put new tires on, and I was on the outside of my new. We had like maybe 15, 20 laps to go, and I was like, if I get the inside lane going into one here on new tires, I got this race a wrap. And he was the car to the inside, so I moved down thinking that he would think, "Hey, Dad's on new tires. I'm going to let him down, let him have his lane. He'll go on to win." And he didn't do that, and we got crossed up, caused a big pile up, and uh, my wife had to separate us because I was hot with. But I went back and watched the replay, and I was like, "Yeah, it was real more my fault." But we didn't speak for a couple hours
So,
afterwards.
so we're up to crew chief, spotter, and referee. I cannot
Yeah,
wait to see how many titles your wife has before the end of this show. Um,
right.
so, but still, even though you probably had a disagreement on the track, at the end of the day, though, that still had to be cool when you're able to sit back then kind of reflect on that. Don't
Yeah,
well, I mean, right?
yeah,
Or was
yeah.
it, or did Luke have to eat dinner in his room that night?
We did eat separately. Yeah, I mean, it was heated. There was
So
a lot
there is
of
competitive. That's good. That's
I want
a
to
good
see him
thing.
win, but I don't want him to wreck me doing it.
He
Well,
almost got his,
go
he
ahead, Luke.
almost got
Sorry.
his revenge. I'm sorry. He almost got his revenge at Slinger last Thursday.
Oh yeah, we had our recruitment races this past Thursday at Slinger, and it came down between me and him, and I tried to give him the old Austin Dillon going into 4, but it didn't work.
Wow. Luke, there's an old saying, what comes around goes around, karma. So, if he
Yeah,
gets
I
to you,
know.
he gets to you. Fair is fair. And one of the old school racers say, I'll race you the way you race me.
Right.
So,
I'm
well,
very familiar with that.
oh, that's very cool. Well, how did you guys get into iRacing? I will get into it in a minute, but I know that you guys have had a long history, both in the real world and racing, and and Ken, I know you've done a lot of different games through the years that have come
Yeah.
out with racing. But how did you guys particularly find iRacing?
I joined on that first week in 2008. Let me say,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
a big fan. Well, I'm a big fan of the NASCAR 2003 game. I loved
Hmm.
it, and I hated iRacer right off the bat because as soon as that game was released, the John Henry split went away, and I thought, oh my God, I can't believe Papyrus is closing down. I mean, what's going to happen to the sim thing? And looking at iRacing that beginning, that first week I logged in, I thought, God, it's 4 cars. These are tracks I don't want to play at. I hate all these cars. And I got to pay how much money to do what? And there wasn't a whole lot of people online. I mean, it's like, man, I'm going to invest to me at that time, I'm going to spend a lot of money to do what? Because you'd log on and be like the 5 people. I think it was more than that, but it was terrible to get a race going. And when my first month was up, I was like, it's exactly what I thought it was, and canceled it. And
Oh,
then
wow.
probably about 2012, I signed back up again. Like, is it any better? And it was a little better, but I still thought with all the mods and everything, and I still had a group that I raced with in 2003, and I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay where I'm at. I don't think it's good enough. And
then in 2022, I think
20,
it was the first time we went to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in
yeah, we went to the
Charlotte.
Hall of Fame and they
And
were,
we both
yeah,
tried it, and then we were like, this is pretty good.
yeah. I was like, wow, this is so much better than the last time I was a part of it. And uh, we were still racing karts at the time,
And
and
then just as he joined, he had sold his go-kart, most of his go-kart stuff to somebody and got a good chunk of money out of it. And I think how much money?
yeah, I got my wife said, how much money did you get? And I said, enough to buy me a nice simulator for iRacing.
And
It's grown from there. I kind of regret. I wish I had toughed it out in 2008 to get to this point, but it is what it is, and I love it. I just think it's a great simulator, great game, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, it's I joined in 2013, and just the change I've seen, over the few years, it's been amazing, and the stuff that they have. And you talked about the Papyrus split, but I think if you pulled the curtain back and looked at iRacing, there is a lot of people that were at Papyrus that are not iRacing. I think John Henry went and took the
Yeah,
absolute best
yeah,
that he wanted to over with him, and created a great product. I mean,
yeah,
it's uh, what was in that time that you left? Because I've heard stories. I came in league racing. It was funny. League racing was new and it was looked down on. And there's a lot of people, officials now. The officials are, I don't want to say looked down on, but it's just tough to find good racing in the
yeah,
officials. I mean, let's be honest about it. That is such a that's iRacing's in a tough spot because you've got people who are gamers, and then you got people that are looking for the simulation side. And when you put them all on
yeah.
the track together, you know,
it creates
It's chaos.
yeah, and
chaos.
you get exactly what you get in the open.
Yeah,
So now everybody likes the the league stuff. So that's one of the things. But for you, when you came back and then you went ahead and logged back on and renewed all the stuff that you saw upgraded and all the changes, what was the one thing that you were like, I can't believe they did this?
Uh, I came back when we came back in. I was excited. I wanted to run big block modifieds. That
Ah,
was what I was coming after,
the dirt. All
and
right.
and and I will say I bought iRacing with the intent I wanted to join leagues. I knew that's what I wanted to be in because
Yeah.
I wanted to race against the same people every week. So I'm not guessing is this guy going to how's this guy going to race me? I like to know
Yep.
who I'm racing against. But we came in right. I played Dirt had just started in 2022.
Yeah, it's about right.
Somewhere in there, but that first model of it, I ran a small block at Eldora, and I was full throttle, high side, and I thought, man, if I was in a 360 sprint, this would be it. But a small block modified at Eldora is going to be hugging that inside Jersey barrier and just grinding away. And I thought, ugh. So I thought, well, the dirt thing needs work. I just stopped playing on the dirt side and went full on asphalt
Fisher racing.
with it.
Well,
And,
as a dirt guy, I'll tell you, you should venture back out because they've done a lot of different things with tire wear and the track state and all that kind of stuff. It's not one lane anymore. You can venture
right,
wherever you want to go on the track. So
Mhm.
I'm a dirt guy. I drove dirt late models in
right.
real life, so they have gotten it really, really close
Yeah,
to real life on that stuff. So
I've been trying the Friday night with Lowell and I gotta tell you that pro late model is hard to drive to me. I mean, it was so bad. I went and logged back in on a big block and drove it around, just like, man, am I bad at dirt, or is that car just hard to drive? And I was like, that car's just hard to drive.
and it's because of the suspension under, and we can talk about offline
Right.
on that. I know I probably can guess why that's hard for you to drive, but if you don't drive it right, the suspension doesn't work, and then you get an evil handling car. You have to
Yeah.
drive those cars a certain way to get them rotated, to keep them rotated. Yeah, but the dirt is fun.
Yeah.
Well, how about you've got the history in NASCAR though. I mean, when you came back, all of a sudden you've got all the NASCAR. You've got, I know the SK mods. I think were one of the original cars, so you
Right.
still had your modifieds,
Yeah.
but you have the late models. You have I think the late model stock, but you had the super lates. I think when you came back,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, all the different short track oval cars and all that. Which one did you gravitate to the first when you got back?
I wanted to be the super late model because I just think that's the most fun car, but unfortunately, unofficial, nobody runs it, and the SK had a good. You can always get an official race in the SK and the Tour modified, which I really enjoy as well.
Uh-huh.
Uh, those were the two cars I kind of gravitated to. The Pro Late model, I drive it because there's a lot of people there, but I just think it's I'm in that minority. I think it's a terrible car.
Yeah, it's a good car. I like the challenge of just driving it and trying to keep your tires
I'm
because if
telling you,
you can
Sean,
drive that,
I hate
I was gonna
listening to
say
that
though,
high pitch engine sound.
yeah, but if you could drive it to where you keep your tires under you, it improves your
Mhm.
other driving because you learn to be consistent on your
Yeah,
throttle and all that. So I mean, it does teach you some good habits. But
right,
yeah, I'm actually with you. I could take or leave the
right.
car. How about you, Luke? Which car do you really like getting into?
Rock, the NASCAR truck car.
The truck?
Hmm.
You got a favorite track?
Texas, definitely.
Really? All right, now I see where that makes sense. He likes Concord, so of course you like Texas. Why not? That's a that's a track that's really difficult, and the fact that you like that is actually it's probably a good sign because you've got to work at it to not lose the back end around that track. So, um, when you go there, I mean, do you struggle there, or you just is it a place you just have fun?
Just have fun, and I'm usually really good at it.
Wow. So
Usually,
that means you got pretty decent car control and you're pretty good with the throttle and not I mean those are some really really good habits to have. Your feet work um in racing is probably one of the most important things that you can learn how to work your feet right. So and that's a track you have to do that. So that's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, it makes total sense. Your dad likes Concord, you'd like Texas. So I'm guessing you guys probably road course wise, if you ran them, you probably like Laguna Seca too. So
I do. I love I
yeah.
love the corkscrew.
I think I'm actually in the minority on that one. I think they should just turn it into a vineyard. Um, so, uh, well, you guys, we talk about races, the tracks that you guys like, but you guys got two different approaches. And now that I know that you have an in-house crew chief, Kenny, you're more of the guy that, hey, on restarts and starts, track position's key. Get what you can get, settle in. It sounds like that's kind of how you work.
Yeah.
Settle in and then wait to the end and to see where you're at and, drive accordingly. And Luke, you're and this probably reflects, being a little bit younger, a little bit rambunctious, but you're, hey, the flat the rag drops, you're all go, right?
Yep, that's
So
pretty much my racing style.
so have there been question or conversations between the two of you to try to, you know, Ken, to try to get Luke to come a little bit more your way of thinking and you know,
I
and vice
I want him
versa.
to come a lot my way, but I think his biggest advantage is just not knowing. I mean, just having. I mean, for him, it's a blank slate. He doesn't care about early tire wear or saving for later. He just
Drive.
yeah, he just doesn't. I don't think he thinks the car. Well, I know he does in some cars, but sometimes I don't think he cares if the car's going to push later in the run or if it's going to be loose later in the run. He's like, whatever it's going to wind up being, that's just how I'm going to drive it,
Mhm.
and
Well, and that's
he just
that's what I
doesn't
was
care.
gonna say. It sounds like he's actually really good at adjusting his driving
Yeah,
style to the kind of track is you can't go to a place like Texas and not adjust. Nobody can drive exactly how they want at a track like that. You
yeah,
just can't.
yeah,
Same thing like at Concord. You like you were talking about turn three. Well, three, I guess 3A or
yeah.
3B, however you want to look at it.
Right.
Um, but you want to it actually entices you to want to drive in deep, but you can't. So those kind of tracks where you have to adjust um, really is a mark of really good and versatile drivers. And Luke, it really sounds like you're kind of going that direction. So
He
that's a really cool thing. Um, so on the track, if you're, I'm gonna ask Ken here. I'm gonna ask you first. You're behind Luke, so does the crew chief have to run down the hall and say, "Hey, stop doing this or stop doing that"? And does that happen?
when we first started, yes, but then I've kind of just accepted that's how he drives, and I need to deal with it. Like
And
my big
Luke,
is he won't practice, and I'll be like, and he'll go out and in session practice and be terrible. He'll just crash. See how many incident points he can get, and I'll fuss at him, and he'll be like, I just want to find the limit, and then qualifying will happen, and he'll drop a fast lap, and I'll just think, oh my god, yeah, because my message is wasted because it's like, yeah, Dad, I don't need to practice. This is fine.
and Luke, how many times is your mom? You had to send your mom back the other way and tell your dad to get out of the way.
None.
None.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
you
doesn't.
gotta, you
He
gotta, you
doesn't
gotta
fuss
make that
back.
happen. You've got to make that happen. Send her back there. Hey, you're holding me up. Get out of the way, or I'm gonna move you.
Not like that.
I would even. Well, you know what? But get in his head. Just get in his head. Send the message, even if you're not behind him. If you're two cars, send a message of, "Hey, I'm coming. When I get there, you better be out of the way." That see, mind games.
Play mine.
That's
Yep. I
usually
mean,
the thing because I'll send his mother in there and I'll be waiting for an answer and there won't be an answer. It's like, well, what did he say? He's like, he said okay. It's like, well, okay to what?
oh my gosh, you guys need to stream what's going on during these races, man. I'm thinking you guys would get a huge following pretty quick. I can't. That would just be must see TV. Um, you know, Luke, let me ask you, you with that logic, and I've seen some guys that even in BRL that run like that are, hammer down and, let the chips where fall where they may at the end of a race. And I will tell you, those guys, I've done a lot of broadcasting too, and when I've been up in the booth, you can tell who those guys are, and man, they are fun to watch. They really are, and they win a lot of races. So I believe your time will come. Um, when you're going through all of that, have you learned to, other drivers' tendencies? Have you moved that far into your progression where, okay, I'm behind this guy. I know that he likes to overdrive the corners, or this guy likes to back the corners up. Have you progressed into that yet?
I'm strong, but not too good at it, I would say.
Is that something you're actively working on, or I mean, do you recognize that? Oh, I could probably, if I knew what this guy was doing. I mean, has that stuff kind of started to register for you yet?
In official races, yeah, that's something that you can tell, and that I would really like to have.
Yeah. Oh, official races, unfortunately, you're racing a bunch of people you usually don't know, and so you may never ever be able to figure out who's doing what. Because Ken will back me up on this. Because sometimes people do things that absolutely there is no explanation for.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not a reason under the sun why some people do some of the stuff they do. Um, but this is so cool. I all day now I'm gonna vision this back and forth in your house. That's just so cool. Um, you guys, and especially Ken, and now your son here is starting to kind of take your path. Um, you guys have been around racing your whole lives,
Yeah.
watching as a fan, and um, Ken, when you sent me some information about kind of your background and everything, you were talking about going to the track with your dad and some of the things that your dad was involved with, and I'm going to go ahead and name drop, and it just
Right.
he was around a guy named Lenny Pond, and then
Yeah.
for those of us that have some gray in their hair and kind of kind of aren't a spring chicken, so to speak, you're going to recognize that name if you're a
Yeah.
NASCAR fan.
Definitely.
He is a part of NASCAR history.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about those early days, and where did you fall in love with racing? Thought, oh, this is it.
I can. Yeah. My mom. Well, Dad unfortunately passed on, but
Sorry to hear that.
yeah. I still can remember being maybe a year and a half, 2 years old, being at Southside Speedway. Dad was down in pits, and me and my mom, my brother were sitting in the stands watching. And yeah, I can. Me and Luke can share one little tidbit. My first words as a baby were "Bye Al" for Bobby Allison, and his first words was Brett Keselowski.
He got the Keselowski part right.
Well, he didn't start talking until he was 4.5 years old. Me and his mother already started learning sign language because we just thought he was never going to talk. And then one day he popped up and said Brad Keselowski, and we were like, "Oh my god!" But on
That's
my part, Bobby was at Southside one night, and my mom tells me the story. But she said, Bobby won the feature, and they say, "Here comes your winner, Bobby Allison." He comes around, and mom said, looked at her and went, "Bye, Al." And she was like, "What?" There they are. But yeah, those days, Dad, for Dad's side, went. How to. Dad was hooked from an early age from his father and his uncle, and uh, for me, I I was fortunate. My dad and my brother had no interest in driving. They just wanted to work on cars.
Mhm.
They want to do it, and I had in the early days I had zero desire to work on cars. I just wanted to drive. But we were on the farm. Dad put a steel post in the ground, put a chain on it, we had a Rupp go kart, and he tied there, and I just went circles and circles and circles until it ran out of gas, and he put more gas in it, and I just keep going around and around, and that's how I was hooked from there.
That is such a cool story. So I'm assuming then when you were growing up, Bobby Allison was your guy.
Oh yes, no doubt.
Oh,
So
Well,
all Alabama gang.
I, yeah, growing up in Southside, yeah,
Where is that track, by the way? That's one. Believe it or
it's on
not, I don't.
Genito. It's south of Richmond on Genito Road. It's closed now, but Chesterfield County and
Okay,
you say
so
a
near
guy that
Richmond.
another guy, yeah, in Richmond, yeah, and another guy that actually worked for was Lenny Pond was his mentor, Lynn O'Neill. him and Chesterfield have worked out a deal to bring the track back. But if you all saw how bad North Wilkesboro was before its rebirth, Southside's 10 times better because the grandstands for taking out Southside moved to Dominion. So it's got a lot of work. I hope it comes back, but we'll see.
When you were young there and at the track and seeing those guys, because I'm sure if Allison was there, Petty was probably on there. All those guys.
DW was there a lot.
Yeah, DW. I mean, you could go through the names that are iconic with the history of NASCAR. Did it ever occur to you what you were actually watching?
It does now, and
I'm sure now, but I'm talking back then.
No, I'll tell you what's funny is I always hate because Dad was there with Lenny, but I love Sonny Hutchins, and God, trying to get people to understand today's race culture to back then. Back then, you could just hang out with drivers. I mean, Sonny owned a bunch of restaurants and clubs, and on Dad's days off, we'd go to that club, and I'd sit at the bar with the little video poker machine while Dad and everybody, had their night out. And Sonny was a real nice guy. And
there wasn't cell phone. There wasn't cell phone.
And
multi-million-dollar contracts. With
Sonny's bar had the best hush puppies, but I just thought I loved this guy and I cheered for him. And when I got older, I asked my brother, I realized Sonny was the bad guy at Southside. Ray Hendrick was the hero. And I was like, I always wondered why is nobody cheering for Sonny? And the fans hated Sonny and loved Ray. And I was just so much old. I was in my 20s where I realized I can't believe he was the bad guy. I just thought he was the best guy. Lenny. I used to always think Dad's. I don't know if people ever see Lenny Pond's cars, but that his cars were immaculate, and Dad would always fuss that Lenny wouldn't start racing until somebody crinkled or scraped the car. Dad always felt like he was out there trying to keep the car clean. And then when finally somebody would bump him, then he decides time to race. And it just used to anger my dad so much. He was like, we put all this work in to come to the track, and you're out there riding.
Well, back in that time too, it isn't like the parts and pieces on these cars today where the green flag goes and your cars, you can run them 500 miles.
Yeah,
your brakes are going to stay under you. I mean, the tires are going to wear, sure.
Yeah.
But the parts and the pieces on the car are going to hold together. Back then, that reliability was not there, not even close. So I could see the ride, and I could see the ride. You sure it wasn't part keeping your stuff?
In the Richmond thing, I'm looking back. I'm really fortunate to grow up when I did, because that was the change from there wasn't late model stock racing. Virginia was just like everywhere. It was modified racing, but the modifieds were shrinking because they were getting expensive, and it was just cheaper to go to a junkyard, pull out a late model car. It had 4 fenders, and if you bent it up, you go back to the junkyard and get another set of fenders. And in the Virginia area, the modifieds went away, and the late models became the king. And when I say that, I just think it's funny today, because now if you want to get into racing, I think the modifieds is the cheaper way to go, and a late model will just crank on your.
There's a part of the reason I'm not in them anymore is that very reason.
Right.
$20,000 in shocks, and $60,000 for a motor, and yada
exactly.
yada. Even though they've done some cost controls, but it's still really expensive to do now. But for you, Luke, now you're growing up in a different era here, and I don't know if you. I mean, was he old enough to kind of realize even what like Jimmy Johnson was doing? I mean, to win all those championships that close and like 5 in a row. I mean, I know a lot of people have a lot of different opinions because of, the changes on how they did the points, but winning a championship still, it's not easy. And to do it 5 in a row is really, really remarkable to do. So do you remember that at all?
I wasn't even born when he did the 5 in a row.
All right, I feel really old now.
I can't. I don't
Had a whole line of questions here, but that just went out the window. But well, how about this? Brad K is your driver now, right? Brad, are you aware about of his dad? I mean, how if his, Bob Kozlowski being his dad, his dad was
Mhm,
a truck racer and
mhm.
one of the original, short track truckers.
And he
And
owned a truck team of his own, which
he
Brad
did.
did also, and hosted drivers of like Tyler Reddick and others.
Yeah, there's a lot that came through Brad K's stable that have got
Are
their
now
start. And
today.
Tyler's a good kid, man. I want to see Tyler do good things. He's probably I don't usually root for a whole lot. Tyler's one of the guys I actually kind of like to see have some good success. Um, so what about Brad drew you to Brad?
To be honest, remembering now, it's never really. I don't remember much from
Mhm.
my like 5. I don't remember the
It was just
first.
something you just know. Hey, I like the guy.
Well, I can tell you, his mother is a big Rusty Wallace fan,
Mm.
and when he was a child, she had a lot of Rusty Wallace diecast that he played with,
Oh,
and
that number two.
so the Miller number two, and when he was old enough to go, hey, I got a Miller number two, and there's Miller number two winning on TV.
Yeah,
However, now
yeah. What's funny is I was waiting for, when he won his championship, him drinking all that beer out of the cup. I was waiting for that
But
to be
that's
the
gonna
answer.
be
I was like,
that,
oh,
yeah,
that's going to be awesome. you, you always drink responsibly. I guess I
right,
should
I
probably put
drank
that in there.
responsibly, kid.
But yeah, that was watching him do it because I remember those interviews on ESPN, and I mean, he was lit
right,
on
yeah,
those interviews, and that was probably. And you talk about the culture. That
yeah,
was old school. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
around the tracks when I first started getting around them, I mean, guys would it was crazy because you would see guys race hard, come in the pits, fight, go to the pay window, get their money, get back to their trailers and start drinking beer together.
yeah,
I mean, that's honest to God, that was the sequence of events. You race, if you had a fight, you had a fight, you go get
right,
paid, and then you had a drink and you had a beer and talk about it.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
You don't really see that a whole lot anymore.
no,
um, but you know, you can argue if that's good or bad that that's not there. I mean, that camaraderie around the track. I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's for me. That's probably what I miss most about being at the
yeah,
track is actually being in the pits and around guys. And that's the cool thing about iRacing is you kind of get that. You get in a good league around a good group of guys. You get a lot of those same things. You could
yeah,
argue a lot. I know I had a disagreement with another driver Friday night, and
right,
he and I went and had a conversation about it. I mean, that was all almost the same sequence of events as what you get there. So for you, that you've raced karts and all that, and you've, from what I understood, you kind of sold that. Now you're in iRacing. Does
Mhm.
iRacing scratch that itch sufficiently for you?
definitely. It
Yes.
it definitely does. And if for Luke, he wanted to get. I'll tell you how I viewed iRacing it, and now is he wanted to get into go karts, and I didn't want to do Pee Wee go karts because it's a fiasco. If you've ever been to a
Yeah.
karting track and watched it, the kids that
Well,
line up all over the place.
yeah,
And
and race dad is about as bad as pageant mom.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, seriously. I mean,
yeah,
and it's like that football dad. I mean, there's actually a pretty, you know,
yeah,
it's gotten pretty bad on there. Like the bandoleros too. I know, or the culture behind those are just
yeah.
horrible in some of the places. Um, so what do you miss most then about doing that? Is it the actual driving part, or
I gotta be honest. I because of iRacing, I don't miss it at all. And I'm not saying I didn't fall out of love. I think it's funny for me. When I was a kid racing at Chestertown, they used to have a master's class 45 and over, and they would come off the track as they were at the scales, and I come up behind them. And I mean, every one of those guys were getting out of their carts, rolling on the ground, dead. I was sitting there as a kid thinking to myself, God, if I ever get to that point, I'm not racing anymore. And when I got to that point where I had to roll out of my go kart to get out of the scales, I told my wife, I said, "That's it. I'm done. I can't do it." And I think back to, I quit. I was 52 when I quit, so I think my grandfather, was just starting to race in his late 40s and into his 50s, and racing in midgets and stuff. And I'm thinking, you know, you can say, was that the best generation? I was like, well, they're definitely tougher than I am because I can't race a go-kart.
You got Schrader and Red Farmer out there. Red,
Right.
racing. I mean, nobody knows his exact age, but I'm going to say he had to be pushing 100 last time I saw him on a car.
Yeah, definitely.
And Schrader's out there. He's got to be in his 70s.
Yeah, and they still get it done.
Yeah, they get it done. So yeah, power to them. But the one thing I gotta imagine that you do like is, hey, you got some extra money laying around. I bet too now.
I think
and it hurts a whole lot less when something goes wrong.
It does hurt a lot less. I enjoy, when I got the deal I made with my wife was, I said, in entry fees alone, we would spend almost $200 on a weekend. Yeah. I said, that's going to be my iRacing allowance. I get $200 a week spent on iRacing, and the rest of it, you take the go play golf and do all the things you want to do.
Yeah, I mean,
and she is tickled to death. She don't miss the racing, I don't think, at all.
Yeah, I think I've got all of the content, so I own everything. And so I think at the end of the day, I think I might spend $100 a year on iRacing. I mean, the subscription, and then maybe a little bit more because, the new content that comes out, they usually have 5 or 6 tracks that come out in the year, maybe 1 or 2 cars. So $100 in content and the subscription. I always do the Black Friday deal. I don't know if you've done that, but I mean, I think I'm signed up through like 2028 at this point.
Right.
So yeah, it's not. If it is expensive though, it's daunting when you first sign on because it's like, holy crap.
Yeah,
I think it took me 4 years to get everything.
Really?
Yeah, I did it piecemeal. I think how I did it is, okay, I'm going to run this car and I would commit to this car. I'd look at the tracks coming up for that season, buy those tracks, run that car. Next season, do the same thing over and over again. And I mean, like I said, a couple of years of that, and I owned all the oval stuff because I wasn't doing a whole lot of road. But for folks that are listening that are all, when they look at it and think the price tag, you don't have to own everything. And like you said earlier too, when you signed on, I think even when I did, there was like 4 cars that came for free and like 8 tracks.
Yeah.
There is a ton of free content now.
Yeah. I mean, it's always theoretically, even if you get into a league, if it's NASCAR-ish, you won't spend a whole lot. You won't have to buy too much more to be in it.
No, and and that's the cool thing. And then, like you said, the getting to know guys and do all that kind of stuff really that helps. So, well, one of the other things, you're saving this money now from racing.
Right.
And you say that you're some of the things that you let me know about you is you're into restoration.
Yeah.
So what is it that you like to restore, and tell me a little bit about that?
I like AMCs. That's what I'm into. We are a Ford family.
Oh, Matador.
Yeah, we I didn't include that. We do have a Matador, but it has a tail to it.
Oh no!
I'll give the short version. My brother bought it from a son of a man who was murdered, and I'm a suspect in that murder.
Seriously?
That's God's honest truth. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's still unsolved. It's an unsolved mystery, but yeah, but my brother bought the car, and I came home and I saw it sitting in the driveway. I thought, "What are you doing?" He said, "Why?" I was like, "They think I might have murdered that guy, and you just bought the car, you idiot."
I think this show just went to 2 hours. That is nuts.
I don't drive that car. I just it exists, and I don't want nothing to do with it.
I can imagine so. So you like restoring those AMC cars?
Yeah.
So do you trick them out, or you go for like originality?
I like tricking it. I like modifying the cars. My father and I learned everything from my dad. My dad taught me everything from welding, painting, fabricating. And he's a concourse. He likes concourse judging. He wants to put a car back to the day it came off the showroom. And I just used to think it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. Make sure all the parts match. Make sure the belts are the right belts. Make sure the tires are right. I mean, all the little nooks and crannies it takes to do that. God bless him. But I was like, Dad, let's do some heads here. I mean, Dad had the ability to. No, I think what's funny with Dad is in our racing days, I'd come home and Dad would be sitting at the counter watching his little black and white TV, and he'd have a head sitting there on the table, and he's just polishing ports, got his emery cloth, he's just going through them. Look, and that was life for Dad.
Yeah, but watching things take shape, I mean, the satisfaction probably
Well,
once you get
I
to where
would
you
think,
want.
yeah,
Each car's a journey.
I would just think, Dad, you love modifying, doing that stuff on the race cars, but when it comes to a car he's going to put on the road, it's like, nope, it's going to be original.
How many of them have you done?
Ooh, I'm going to say there's at least
We have the Javelin, the
10.
yellow car, the
Yellow car.
Yellow Submarine.
I think there's cars at the chicken house you've never seen. I'm going to say there's finished cars. There's 12 finished cars,
Wow.
and then there's a lot of Galaxies still down at the chicken house that I don't think are ever going to get done. I personally, I have we're redoing the Rogue now, and I have one 360 engine complete that I have nothing to put in. So by logical choice, if you have the engine, you got to go find a car somewhere to put the engine in.
One that'll fit too. I mean,
Well, I've always wanted I love a 70, 71 Hornet. I would settle for the 75, the James Bond Hornet. I would like to do as well.
nice.
But I hate those rubber bumper protectors on those cars. So that'd be the first thing go off. I have to fabricate something, but yeah.
I've always been a big fan of the roadsters and stuff from the 40s and 50s, and
Right.
that's probably my favorite. Like the Maseratis from that era, are just those are always been my favorite. And if I ever get around to doing something like that, that's probably the one I would want restored. But I'd probably take the tack of your dad though, get it original, as close to original.
Yeah.
Well, since that's your hobby, and Luke, you don't look old enough to have a hobby yet. So this is, this was coming because I know this is going to be a great subject for you to talk about. But school, so that's going to be your hobby, and we're going to treat that as your hobby. So when you go to school, what subject can you not wait to get to? And lunch does not count as a subject, nor does study hall.
Well, I don't have a study hall, unfortunately. Math and science are the ones I look forward to.
Really? That's a good sign.
Mhm.
Okay, then what is the one that? All right, if I could somehow skip this class or delete it from my schedule.
English all day.
Wow, there is no hesitation.
I do not like English class. I hate it.
I got bad news. I got bad news for you. When you head off to college, not only are you going to have to know English, but they're probably going to make you learn another language too.
I already see that one coming.
I went through French, and I will just recommend do not go through French because, man, they have a lot of weird rules that would be considered bad grammar in our language. Screwed me up for a while learning to talk and all that stuff, and then my English got all flubbed up, and it was really wild. And I'll tell this story real quick. When I was going through learning that, my dreams all of a sudden at night when I would go to sleep, I would dream in French. Now you want to talk about messing up your whole mindset, daily everything. It was very bizarre to have dreams and full on French. So English is the one you don't like. Can I ask why?
It's English.
Okay. I mean, do you not like the grammar? Is it punctuation? Is it just
I don't like
boring?
Anything.
I don't like anything about it. You like to talk, don't you?
Yes.
I like to understand what folks are saying.
Yes.
You know what's funny in the grand scheme of things, and your dad will probably kill me for saying this to you, but knowing math and sciences is probably going to be every bit more important than knowing English perfectly in this day and age. So I would say keep on keeping on with the math and sciences. Did you have a favorite kind of science. For me, like earth science. I love earth science, tornadoes and hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. Do you have a favorite kind of science that you like?
So I wished when we did our earth science unit that just passed by, I wish we could talk more in depth about other natural disasters, but unfortunately we did. We're too busy trying to figure out how hail forms.
Well, as you get older, they do talk about those things. They're just scratching the surface with you at your age. So good news. As you progress, you're going to get into some of those other things, and they'll explain the volcanoes and plate tectonics and all that kind of stuff. You'll get into all that stuff in more in depth. So
Mhm.
and then if you want to really specialize in those natural disasters, you can go down those routes and then you get a whole lot on your plate about that stuff. So that's a very cool. So earth science is kind of your favorite too then?
One of my favorites, but my favorites have always been about space and that thing.
Mm. Well,
Space.
that's astronomy. Okay. I like that stuff too, and learning, Kelvin and all that kind of stuff. It's fascinating. Light years and um I don't know how much you follow the news, but here recently, like within the last like month, they found a planet that they think has life on it.
Yeah.
I
It was like
didn't
I don't know,
hear
it was like I think it was like 4,000 light years away or something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it's relatively close, but they think there's water on the planet, like oceans, like what we have here. So they got to get a closer look. But yeah, look that up. You probably get to see a lot of stuff around that coming up here in the next few years, I'll bet.
Mhm.
I will
So
brag. He is a straight A student, and
that's
he
very cool.
he always gets his assignments done on time. He doesn't procrastinate.
See, you got it easy. I drove my parents crazy because I never did the homework. I
Oh,
drive my teachers,
it's
but when it came to tests, I aced every. That's how I
yes,
graduated. I
right,
aced every test. I was accused of cheating. I don't know how many times coming through school because like he's not paying attention to class. He doesn't do his homework. Now, how does this happen?
right. I know the
You know?
answer, just don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and always I never understood why everybody got pissed at me. It's like the end result is you're supposed to prove that you know the concept.
Right,
I'm showing you I know the concept. I mean, I actually had to retake tests. I recall in a room by myself being watched because twice that happened to me because they were so certain that I cheated.
right.
And then when you
And
aced it again, they were like, "Well, it looks like you
yep,
really did know it."
yeah,
Yeah, he's gonna
and
say, I never see him do homework. That is the funniest thing.
yeah. I mean, the
That's because
funny
I'm
thing
not
is
on time getting homework.
they actually tested me because I actually had a teacher that actually, honest to God, thought I was slow. And they went and tested me, and I was in the 5th grade, and I tested out at the 11th grade level, 12th grade level on stuff. And they're like, "How is that possible?" And, yeah, it's funny how we measure those things, but as long as you understand it and everything else, that's good. And those are 2 very, very difficult areas because especially astronomy. I mean, there's so much that we don't know out there and
Yeah,
different
Mhm.
things and different dangers that could even pose to the planet. I mean, there's a lot of debris floating around, or, meteors and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that you could go and get into that could, I mean, I don't want to over dramatize it, but, could
right.
at one point save the planet. I
Yeah,
mean, from a doom. So you got that super volcano in Montana. I mean, for the English or the earth sciences. So that could cause some havoc here probably before too long, supposedly.
right.
So,
The
but
Yellowstone volcano.
hum,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Old Faithful. There's a super volcano, a caldera under that, and quite a long time ago it went, and if it goes again, it's gonna probably drop rock as far away as probably here in St. Louis and all that, and that's quite a ways away. So um, it's scary stuff out there. That I think it's always good to have somebody that's learning that stuff to maybe help engineer solutions to keep us safe. So you're on a cool path, man. Really are.
mhm, mhm.
So, all right. Well, I'm going to wrap up here a little bit. And first of all, thanks to both of you guys
Oh,
coming
yeah.
in. And
You're
I always
welcome.
like to wrap the show up with like a little green, white checker, a little fun, rapid fire things. So I'm going to do one here, and then you both are going to be involved here. So All right. So, first one. Both of your guys on the track, who's faster?
Mm,
Him.
All right, how about this? Who's faster on the short track?
Him, definitely. Definitely
Who's
on the short
faster?
track.
Who's faster on the mile and a half?
I-
It's getting even.
If I can, I'll tell you one quick story. When
All right,
he loves
we
the
love
CO,
stories.
he loves the COT racing out on super speedways. And
The
when I was doing,
non-restricted car.
yes, and
Okay.
and I can, on speed, I can always get the pole. I'm always in front row when I qualify, and I could not qualify that car and barely make top 10, usually 15. And he was always on the pole, and I was like,
Or close to it.
close to it. He said, "Do you want me to show you how to qualify that car?" And I thought he's going to tell me some stupid thing like, "I just flat-footed all the way around there." And he had actually a whole process of how to make that car build speed, maintain speed, and I was just blown away. Like, I can't believe he figured that out. Did he watch a YouTube video? And I couldn't find a video that explained how to get that car to go fast, but I was
Next
so
time
impressed.
Luke, next time he questions you, just look at him and go, "It's science."
That's,
So, all right, next one. Who has more patience on the track?
Um,
I-
now when we started on racing, when someone did something to him, he was hot-headed. He would always be like,
I'm gonna say Luke probably does. Yeah, Luke has more patience than I do.
Okay, I can see that. Then the last one here I have for you guys. Who gets the most animated on the radio during a race?
what do you mean by animated?
He
What I
says a
mean is
lot.
who's locally to kind of get worked up on the radio, talk smack about another driver, raise your voice about another driver.
That's Luke. That's I might say 2 words the entire night.
So he has more patience, but yet that's interesting.
I was so he doesn't get worked up. Like I don't know how to
Let me
explain it.
guess, Luke. Luke, I'm going to guess you get really mad for like a very short period of time.
Yeah,
Get
yeah,
mad,
that nails it.
lap or two, and then you're back to it. Where your dad, I'm going to bet, gets ticked and remembers that for quite a few laps on down the road, if not a few races down the
Yeah, I
road,
got
right?
a list. I got a list.
Well, now I'm gonna have to bring you back on. We're gonna have to talk about this list. Get some call outs, get some rivalries going. Help the broadcast, make sure that the broadcast team watch this so we can stir the pot.
Right.
But guys, I really do appreciate you guys coming on here. And I know Red Light Racing just wrapped up their season, so you guys will look forward to getting into next season. I got to presume. And Ken, Luke, you should join your dad on Friday nights. Come throw some mud around with us and whatnot. And
I've been trying, but he, what he's terrible is he'll sit there and tell me, "No, I don't want to do it." Then he'll come in here and stare over my shoulder, and he'll be like, "God, that looks like fun. I want to do that
how
now."
about this, Luke? Thursday night, I do practice sessions for the group. Come out and run the practice session. Sign up for the league so you can get access to the practice session. Come out and run the practice session. So there's nothing on the line. You can come out. It's a good way to sample. If you like it, you don't like it, no pressure. Just you got some cars on the track around you. You can come out and have some fun with us.
Thing is, I don't, because since I don't run, I only run oval races, and I don't.
Well,
And
dirt's only oval. We're on oval.
I know,
Yeah.
but like I don't really run dirt races, and when they do come to like, and I only do dirt races on like the free tracks,
Mhm.
and so I'll have to buy most of the tracks probably.
Yeah, see, that's how it is. He always has excuses, but then
I
he'll
don't even
come
know
up
where
like,
we're
"Man,
at.
I want to do."
I don't know where we're going this week.
Well, we'll be going. Actually, we'll be going this week. We'll be in Charlotte, so he'll be.
Yeah. Yeah, I
all over
won't be
next
there.
week.
I won't be there this way. I'll be in Duluth
Yeah.
opening a new Bass Pro. But
Right.
all right, how's this? Next time there's a free track, get yourself signed up. Thursday night, 8 o'clock Central. We do a practice session. I always put one up. Come out and throw some dirt with us.
Mhm.
And it's not like he doesn't have money to spend the tracks.
Yeah, but you don't want him to spend money on a track he's never going to race, or he gets into it and says, "Hey, I'll stick to the asphalt."
He's got plenty of
Um,
iRacing dollars.
Oh well, then buy the next track and come out and play.
Right.
I don't have nothing.
Hey, look at it, Luke. Look at it this way: it's another discipline you can beat your dad at. Yeah. See, look. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Light
Yeah.
bulb just went off. So,
Right.
but hey, guys, thank you so much for coming on here,
Okay.
You're
and
welcome.
we will definitely have you guys back somewhere down the road here to talk a little bit, maybe about progression and have some more
Right.
fun. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you guys.
Thank you,
Yeah,
John.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks
And
for, hav-
that's going to wrap up. What was that, Luke?
thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. Well, guys, this is the end of the show here, and my name is John Hine. We're going to wrap it up here, and we'll be back again next week right here on VGN.
Coming up on the Virtual Grip Network tonight, May 20th. Catch flag-to-flag coverage of Yesteryear Racing's 1966 Tour Modified Series, live from Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway at 8:30 p.m. The RLR Skidder Creek SK Modified Series will be live from Phoenix Raceway for its Season 14 debut on Thursday, May 22nd at 7:55 p.m. The OBRL Yesteryear Cup Series goes live at 8 p.m. from Charlotte Motor Speedway on Sunday, May 25th. Maximum Velocity Racing League's ARCA Series will be live from New Hampshire Motor Speedway on Monday, May 26th at 9:30 p.m. And catch the next episode of VGN Weekly at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, May 27th, all times Eastern. You can see our full schedule and more at virtualgrip.net.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skidder Creek Motorsports Group.